Okay, let's move on to the GCAAR sales contract for Montgomery County. Remember, GCAAR is the Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors and serves Montgomery County and Washington, D.C. So you will have a base contract, a base listing agreement, and then you'll have jurisdictional addenda that go off of the edge of that, okay? So this is for the sales contract. Um, Basic information that goes on the top: listing company, selling company, buyer, seller, who represents whom, and then real property information, putting the lot block and all that good stuff in there. Jurisdictional addendum. Which one are we going with? Paragraph 2. For Montgomery County, you would click, we're going to go with Montgomery County, obviously. The price, the financing, first deed of trust, and then you have what type of financing. And even if it's we are not contingent on financing. Is there a second deed of trust? This is very rare now, but sometimes folks will say, hey, I'm going to get a 70% loan and I'm going to get a 10% loan and a 20% down payment. So the 10% loan may come from some other source, a parent, a small business, something else. So that would be a second deed of trust. It would have to qualify with the first trust that they can make the payment on the second trust and everything else, the debt to income ratio. The benefit of that is if they can get a 10% loan and make the base loan 70%, they get out of the PITI. That's the benefit of that. That secondary deed, though, that second mortgage is going to be probably a higher interest rate. So if you're at 5.5 now, 5.75, it might be 7%. I don't know, but it would be higher than the going rate for a conventional loan. If there's no assumption fee, this is generally the only assumption loans I know about are VA. And so they would have to talk with the lender on that. Deposit. What kind of deposit? Who's the escrow agent? And the buyer has delivered or will deliver within how many days? All right. Funds due at settlement. Settlement date, when and where. Property maintenance and condition. Is it the date of offer, date of home inspection, or other? I think we've dealt with that in the NVAR contract. You're going to see a lot of same type of language and placement in this contract as NVAR. As I told you earlier, NVAR used to be part of the regional sales contract form with GCAAR and NVAR, and then they decided to break out, but a lot of the format and the language is the same. Okay. Access to property, inclusions and exclusions, home warranty, yes or no. Buyer's representation, they will or will not occupy. And the selling company is or is not authorized to disclose to the listing company information on the loan or lender information to the seller from the buyer. That would be a contract. Most of them are, yes, I'll allow that because it's very powerful for them to be able to talk with the lender about their finances. Wood destroying insects. Right, so the listing agreement is different than it is here in the contract. The WDI, any treatment for live WDI recommended in the license will be made at seller's expense, not negotiable. But this one did add live. We have active in NVAR, but they did put live in here. Okay. Lead-based paint, we've covered that ad nauseum infinitum. Completed lead-based paint forms are attached. Okay, financing application, 7 days after the date of ratification. There's no later than that period, and they must get on the dime, getting stuff back to the lender so that they don't get approved because of just not getting it finished. Title. All right, let me talk about title real quick for a second here. This is where a lot of things flow into title. One is that you're giving me a marketable title, that nothing's going to be cloudying it up, being, making it cloudy. And also that the seller is abiding by requirements on the property down here, unless otherwise agreed to, with all orders or notices of violations of any county, local authority, condo, or homeowner association, or actions in any court on account thereof against or affecting the property. Some sellers, well, I'm selling it as is. Yes, you are. Selling as is as is within the parameters of the contract. As is within the parameters of the contract. It's as is. Okay, what does that mean? It's as is, except you must take care of wood destroying insect problems. It's as is, except the county said your grass is too long. It's as is, except the HOA said your door's painted the wrong color. So that's what as is means. And it's good to explain that to sellers, because you can get into a tug of war when we get the HOA requirement or a notice comes up on the property because it's violating some sort of code. It's as is outside of those parameters that have already been agreed to. All right. All right, possession date. Well, this last paragraph underneath as a title. Parties acknowledge that under certain circumstances, when a property's been rehabbed, there's a lot of that in Prince George's County, or its usage is changed, a certificate of occupancy or final inspection certificate may be required prior to use and occupancy of the property. So, oh, we rehabbed it. Great. Can I see the occupancy certificate or the final inspection? So I would submit as a buyer agent to start asking that. And it says that in paragraph 16 that you may want to, on a blank addendum, say, we want a certificate of occupancy or a final inspection. Now, this is where you would do that. So I've got a notice for sales contract, okay? And I would take the information from here that seller will deliver to buyer a certificate of occupancy or final inspection certificate. Okay, and you put that on here. Am I done with that line? I'll save you the time. Say no. Okay. No. Can you tell me what else is needed with that statement? Seller to provide to purchaser certificate of occupancy or final inspection from the county. What else would need to be added to that phrase? And this is going to go along with all sorts of language that you may be writing on this notice for sales contract.
And we must be in compliance.
Thank you. And must be in compliance.
Oh.
And
if it's not, you have an out.
If it's not, and then you got to put what would happen if it's not in compliance. Another thing, deadline.
Yeah.
Oh, duh.
Well, look, you're not unusual if you didn't write that down there. A lot of agents write this beautiful one or two sentences. They have no beginning date, no ending date, and then after the ending date, what's the last thing that you would want in there? It's the 20th of October and you didn't deliver it. Now what do I want in there?
The escape clause.
The escape clause.
Yeah.
Yeah, the out. I call it the consequence. All right, so seller to provide final inspection and occupancy certificates by October the 30th. I would say a passing final inspection, occupancy certificate. If you got an occupancy certificate, most likely you've got a passing grade. If not delivered by October 20th, purchaser reserves the option to void contract within 2 days. Now you got the teeth. And I got 2 days after the 15th. So now the seller knows if I don't get something by the 17th, I'm good to go. So
Can you repeat it one more time? You said if not delivered by October 30th, purchaser has the option to void the contract.
within two
What is
days. Yeah,
within 2
within
days?
2 days.
Okay.
Or
Okay.
by November 2nd, something like that. They delivered it, it's been fulfilled, I can't void. Okay. So anything you're writing up that you want from the seller, even like home inspection addenda removal. Some agents will say, have the HVAC inspected by a certified tech. Okay, I did. What did he say? Oh, he said it's in rough shape. So, well, did you fix it? No, you didn't tell me to fix it. You said, let me have it fixed. Let me have it inspected. See what I'm saying? Be careful what you say. Do not take what the home inspector put in there that needs to be done and put it in as your removal language. Because the home says, have the chimney inspected. Okay, we did. We had it inspected. Did you fix anything? Oh, you didn't say fix anything. And I'm not being smart aleck.
Oh, I wish.
I'm just
I
putting,
wish.
you said have it inspected, and we did. Here's the inspection. Well, you didn't fix it. You didn't say fix it. You said have an inspection. We thought you wanted it inspected. You didn't have $150 to have them inspected. So.
Oh, Anthony, this is so helpful to know. And I made a huge error in my first transaction. By.
Hey, you're learning it early, right?
I am.
The worst case I had two, my buyer, and then the listing agent. The listing agent was a former agent of mine. So I knew her. I knew her well, and she was a good agent. And the problem is X would be done by this date, or the buyer has the option to, it was not void the contract, but the seller has an option to remain in the property. They didn't put a sunset. They didn't say how long, and they didn't say what would happen afterwards. The sellers, she was pregnant, 8 months, something came up. I don't remember what it was, but they exercised their option, 2 days before closing. The way it was written, there was nothing wrong with it, because they didn't put in, you got to have it done by this date or you can't do it. And so I told my listing agent, who was not my agent anymore, said, hey, with all due respect, you messed up and my guy messed up. Y'all messed up. Okay. I'm going to talk with your broker. Got on the phone with the broker and I said, let me just tell you up front what happened. They both messed up. He goes, yeah, I know. It's like, so he agreed with me. And I said, they're lawyering up. I'm trying to get the buyer to understand, you may lawyer up on a Friday, but is he available Monday when they say they're going to be out? Why pay the extra money? And so we got him to back out, but they wrote a bad addendum is what happened. They wrote a bad addendum. No action clause, no results, no deadlines. And so you always want that when you're writing something about in an addendum that would cover something when you're trying to write. And this is where agents sometimes, and probably rightfully so, get complained about, you're practicing law, you're writing contracts when we're not supposed to do that. But we are able to write addenda. That's what we do. Just make sure you clean it up. So anyway, that's all under title. Possession date, unless otherwise agreed to in writing between seller and buyer. They will give possession of the property at settlement, including delivery of keys, fobs, and codes, if any. If seller fails to do so and occupies the property beyond settlement, seller will be a tenant at sufferance, which is not a good place to be, of buyer, and hereby expressly waives all notice to quit as provided by law. Buyer will have the right to proceed by any legal means available. Again, if this is a short-term thing, get people, cool heads. If the seller remains, they are in the wrong and they need to get out as soon as possible. Again, I had a seller that the day after closing, I get a call from the buyer. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know what's going on. He goes, your seller's still in the house. I'm like, excuse me? And then I got a hold of her, and she was under the impression that after they closed the day before, that she had a few days to move. Nowhere in the contract at all. And so he had to remain at his sister's for 2 days. She moved in with a friend, and after the movers got everything out, but she had to pay for storage, and she got all upset that she was having to pay for storage for the buyer. I'm like, you damaged him. He's got his stuff. All his earthly belongings are on a truck waiting to move into your house, and now it's raining. He had a non-rating day he was going to move into, and now he's got to get all of his friends to come back out on a weeknight to move him in. So I had to have a harsh word with my seller. And so we worked it out. She got out 2 days later, paid his stuff, and then that was it. So possession date is the day of closing unless they've got it worked out. Fees, just explains who's responsible for what. Broker's fees. This is an instruction to the closing company to pay everybody, the brokers. Adjustments, we already talked about that in another paragraph. Disputes, you get beyond me. There's a certain point where after they have complained as far as they can complain, that when they start talking to attorneys and suing, you back away. They have gone beyond the length of your license. You're not going to go down to court and file for them. You're not going to get them connected with it. You can refer them to an attorney, but you can't be the attorney for them. Okay. So, and they got to take care of it all. They got to pay their own fees to file any complaints. You're not going to do that for them. That's not your job. Legal expenses, we've talked about that. Loser pays the expenses of the winner. Performance. Performance is usually geared toward the buyer. Get everything in as far as the money is concerned, and the funds of the transaction may be used to pay off existing liens. Seller's responsibility to keep the existing mortgage going until closing. Anything happens to the property, they need to take care of it until closing. All right. We've talked about that. Property condition. All right, so this is in the contract and where the buyer needs to understand what do they need to get inspections for. And this would be personal property, water quality and quantity, sewer quantity. That would be like water pressure. I had one once where the water pressure was low, and the seller was like, well, I've never had a problem. I said, well, look, the water pressure is low. He got the county out there and found out the thing was halfway off. So all this time he'd been living with halfway off water. Didn't know it. He just thought, well, it's my pressure. He could have had a really good shower and didn't know it. Flood hazards, airport aircraft, flame retardant, treated plywood, all this type of stuff. It's on the buyer to inspect for these things if they want to inspect for them. All right. Legal requirements, all contracts for the sale must be in writing. Nothing verbal works. That's why anything you change, get it into an addendum, get everyone sign off on it. Okay, a lot of this you already have gone through before. All right, again, under notices and delivery, we're so used to delivery having an address, an email connected to it. This is the delivery notice on the delivery notice paragraph. Notice what's not there. Where do you want this sent? Okay. Notices to buyer shall be effective when delivered to buyer or buyer's agent named in the contract or that agent's supervising manager. All notices required under this contract will be in writing. Notices to the seller shall be effective when delivered to seller or seller's agent named in the contract or that agent's supervising manager. There you go. So when it comes to you in Maryland, it has been delivered. Okay. HOA documents. We got the financing taken care of. The home inspection removal addendum. If it's sent to you, it's been delivered to the buyer. So I would submit if something happens to you that you have the ability for someone to get into your mail to check things. All right. And this is also why it's good for agents to submit their documents into command. So if we get word that you've been in an accident or you get hospitalized or incapacitated, we can go to command, look up the information, and let the agent know what's going on. And then maybe we work on your behalf, your seller or buyer's behalf. We need to extend some dates. We lost 3 dates here because she was in the hospital and we didn't know about it. Okay. And that's it. This is quick because we were able to get so much done on the other contracts. Seller, agent information, buyer agent information, all in the contract. Okay? Any questions on that? Anything you faced before that you got a question on? All right.